Hi there, my name's Rodda, and today I'm going to be interviewing the lovely Sophie Hanson about the Pass the Mic event that Sexpression Warwick are hosting on the 5th of December, isn't it? So that's Thursday. Wednesday. Excellent.
Yeah? Is it Wednesday?
I think so. I just feel like with deadlines, all the dates are so up in the air at the moment, so we're going to say Wednesday. Yeah. Well, no, lovely. Well, first, nice to meet you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? You're an English student, right?
Yeah, I'm a first year English student.
Okay.
I joined Sexpression during Freshers Week. I've done a little bit of teaching with them and just starting to get involved in more the other side of the society, which is these kind of events and speakers events and more social events.
So did you find out, did you literally just come across them
at
the
Freshers Fair?
Yeah, and like met them? What was their stall like? I bet really colourful.
Lots of penises and condoms.
Would attract anyone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're really friendly. Tabby, who runs it, she's great, and it's a really, really good group of people and a really free environment. Yeah.
Awesome. And how did Sexpression Warwick kind of line up with, because you've done quite a lot of research, haven't you, about the vagina monologues in particular?
Yeah, so this is what my speech will be about at the event.
Yeah, speaking. Yeah. That's very exciting. Are you nervous?
Yes. Although I don't know how many people will be there, so
that's okay. You can figure that out on the day.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure yet, but yeah, it's the first time I've really done anything like that before, but we'll give it a go. I'm quite comfortable talking about the research I did because it was part of a project I did at school, so there's presentations and stuff involved in it then. But this is the first chance I've got to talk about it in a less academic environment, or in an environment that focuses on the messages. More
kind of like a shared space as well.
And one that focuses on the message of the play rather than the technique of the play, which was more what my research was.
And you're also not getting marked for it.
Yes, exactly.
So that was good.
Yeah.
But how did you find out about the vagina monologues? Do you remember your kind of first encounter with them, your first reaction to reading them? What drew you in?
Yeah, so I guess I read them almost because of kind of what Sexpression is about, which is the fact that the sex education we got wasn't necessarily the standard that we needed it to be, and wasn't necessarily as representative of the breadth of, particularly as a woman, a female sexual experience. And that's what Sexpression tries to do, is give that to people, and that's also what the monologues offer. And that's kind of why I read them and went looking for them as almost like another way of learning about the sexual experience I would have, and a more representative experience than the one that you learn about in textbooks.
Yeah, it's kind of the what I've heard from a lot of people who have read them and stuff. It's kind of that text that is almost it's in absentia, isn't it? It's absent. It's in between the lines of what is so classically pushed within schools and stuff. But in order to get that full representative picture, it seems like it's been really important in that, and that's why I'm so glad that a society like Sexpression are here at Warwick. They're doing such a good job, definitely. So has, in that way then, because the Sexpression lot, they're a lovely, charming bunch, they're all lovely, shout out Kate and Tab. But has it been a good space then for you to talk about your own research with the monologues and everything? How were they really receptive to it when you were hey, I've got an idea, I'm passionate, I want to speak about this? How did that work?
Definitely. I mean, we had a meeting. We have meetings every now and again to talk about where it's going to go and what events the society have coming up. And I just mentioned it. It was actually I think we were talking about another society that we wanted to support. Girl Boss, I think it's called. We wanted to support their empowering event, and I was talking about my research and how that might fit into that. And then when we ended up doing our own Pass the Mic event, Tab messaged me and she was like, do you want to speak about it? And it's a really encouraging environment to, when they know you have an idea or you have something you want to put forward, they will almost create an environment that you can do that. And that's really, really great.
It's good to have such an opportunity and put on that platform, not just for the benefit of you getting to speak about it in less of an assessed kind of point of view, but in a mutually beneficial way, because not a lot of people will know about the motivations behind the vagina monologue. So can you talk about that briefly? What's kind of the driving force?
So the monologues are about empowering women to be able to celebrate their sexuality and challenge threats to women's sexual power.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it coexists with a charity called V-Day. V-Day exists to break down sort of systems that not encourage but perpetuate sexual violence.
Yeah.
And so every year they have a V season in which the monologues will be performed in colleges and universities around the world, and there will also be a charitable movement in those places to break down the patterns of sexual violence. And obviously that's really important in America and UK on with campus sexual violence.
Hugely, yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I was really driven to continue my research once I got to university, because so much of it is linked to university culture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely perpetuated potentially by that campus environment. Like, I don't know whether you know, but Warwick certainly had like some incidents and stuff in the past. So definitely having such a space where you guys are able to like talk openly about this, it's so good to see, and it's a nice way to like wrap up the end of term as well. I think like give people a little bit of food for thought.
Yeah.
So
and also one of the first things when you join in Freshers Week that you're kind of you go into all these talks from the Chancellor and stuff, and they sort of throw the "we get consent" movement at you, and then that kind of dies out by week 2. No one really talks about that anymore, and when you go out on nights out, no one's really like, it's not really a thing.
I think that's a really good point. Very much the idea that it's kind of like it's a bit like a tick box, isn't it? It's like, right, I've covered that, like, you know, we've acknowledged it's there, but it's less like present throughout almost the rest of it. So yeah, for sure, bringing it back into the like, you know, focus is so good. So you were when we were talking a little bit before this interview, you were saying about how you're kind of focusing a bit more on kind of like reading the monologues in the context of today, how obviously like that's such a good basis for learning about a more of an inclusive female sexual experience, but in the way that they're not always so diverse, they can almost be a little bit dated, perhaps, can't they? Certainly, like, why is that important to you?
So it's important to me because as a feminist, you take a lot of stick when you say you're a feminist sometimes, and a lot of the way that people say that, sometimes they say it in like a misogynist way, but sometimes it's because they say feminism now isn't inclusive of like transgender women, non-binary women.
It's like a whitewash.
Exactly. And some people say that what the Vagina Monologues portrays is a whitewash, sort of, they call it Hollywood feminism. And so she took a lot of criticism at the time because when it was published, Roe v. Wade in America was under a lot of controversy, and there isn't a monologue about abortion. And they said that what it is a product of a time when she couldn't be too controversial, and therefore it misses out a lot of experience. And it does, and that's one of the things I'll talk about in my speech, and how it does that. It also, every monologue that is deals with rape or sexual violence or domestic violence is by a black woman, and the perpetrator is alluded to as a black man, and all the white women in the monologues have positive female sexual experiences. So obviously that is a stereotype, and it's not true. When I did my research, the World Health Organization, I think, found 57% of perpetrators are white men. So it's not even a representative account of sexual violence. And also obviously the language, the Vagina Monologues, it presents the vagina as the main female sexual organ, whereas obviously the vulva has more sexual, it's more of a purpose. And that's more about female pleasure, and so it heteronormatizes the experience because it's penetrative. And so I'll talk more about that on Wednesday, but that's one of the main reasons it's such an interesting play, because it's so positive and it's encouraging change and it's encouraging celebrating experience, but it's also holding back in some areas and exploring that.
And it just proves, doesn't it, how like quickly evolve, like how like times are evolving now, and how important it is to keep that dialogue of something that although it might have been dated, like couldn't be as controversial, unfortunately, as perhaps it might have wanted to at the time, that having people discuss that and almost try and fill in the gaps with ideas and discussions, like breadth, like allows breadth to the subject. So I think what you're doing in that sense is like so great to be able to open that up and, you know, be like, be frank about it as well, because really like you know, kind of like all inclusive like feminism, you know, in like intersectionality and everything, that's what it needs.
Yeah, massively.
Like, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, so in terms of, we kind of talked about there like what you found out, and hopefully therefore what other people will find out when you tell them. But who do you think today needs the vagina monologues, and who would you recommend it to? Do you think everyone needs it, or do you think certain people, like everyone?
I think it can benefit everyone. I think there are certain people who would probably benefit from it more. I think young girls would benefit from it massively. When we go into schools teaching, I've only done it twice with Sexpression, but when we've gone in, the boys are always so vocal. They always want to shout out the answers. They're always a lot more vocal, whereas it's always the girls who they sit together in their group and they ask you questions, and they are really open about it, but not necessarily in front of the others. And I think that is because of some of the things the vagina monologues as a performative art is trying to put across and encourage, that actually women can be open and say the word vagina and not be ashamed. They can talk about it, they can ask questions about their pubic hair, and it's not shameful. And so I think definitely young women, and also young boys, because I think young boys seeing women celebrate their sex it changes their attitude as much as it changes women's.
It just reverses that whole sociality, really, doesn't it? Because that's the kind of the reason why young girls may not feel so confident to even just like use the word vagina, because it's almost such like a like trigger word in that sense for like so much negative connotation, and being so frank about something that just is there, like there almost like should be a certain frankness to it, but in the sense of it not being a loaded term, in the for young guys to tease or ridicule as well, like definitely. I think that's I was hoping you'd say like young people around the world, because I think so too. Like it's definitely starting that education from that point, and why the whole point of Sexpression going into schools is so incredibly important, starting from that basis, because that's where sex education needs to start. It can't be a kind of like come to union like
because I mean, for me, going to Sexpression, at some points I felt so stupid, because I've been reading things that I need to teach the children. I didn't even know them. And I'm like,
isn't that mad? Like literally, like when I came out of my school, and I was like, this is like bonkers. Like I didn't know. Why didn't I know this? Like kind of thing, because you are only taught. You're taught about how to have like protected sex, which of course is incredibly important, but not necessarily to have like rewarding sex for like both sides as well, whether it be heteronormative, homosexual sex, whatever kind of sex basically. So really like it's really good. I almost wish I could like. Well, no, it gives me like confidence that if I have children in the future, that their sex education will be more inclusive.
And you'd hope that it will become installed in curriculums. It won't have to be a charity going in to deliver these lessons. It will just be the norm.
Exactly, and it won't be such a censored kind of like the vagina monologues. It will be more like this is a really great resource to like learn from.
And that stigma definitely exists. When I did it, obviously I was at sixth form. And I took so much stick for it.
Really?
Yeah. It was very much like, the vagina girl, she's doing the EPQ about vaginas, and it's like, what actually was an EPQ about, rape and sexual violence and women's bodies was reduced to an EPQ about vaginas.
Yeah.
And
that word makes people laugh.
Yeah, and it was reduced into a joke almost, and it made me so angry, but almost drove me to join something like Sexpression and break down that stigma.
For sure. Well, I don't think they'll think you're joking now.
Hopefully not, no.
Which is great. Well, no, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. And I hope that lots of people learn a lot from your talk on the 5th.
I hope so. Yeah, come along.